Hey, it's my honor today to introduce Deb Clay. She is the president and self-proclaimed evangelist for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or better known as OLLI, at Bradley University. She grew up just north of Peoria, graduated from Princeville High School, Northern Illinois University, and earned her MBA from Bradley. I heard it. Yep. She and her husband Larry live in Peoria. They have 2 adult daughters and 2 amazing grandchildren. Deb enjoyed 30-plus years in marketing areas at Caterpillar. After retiring, she volunteered with SCORE coaching small business startups while she started her own business helping high school students navigate college and career planning. Fun fact, she doesn't like lima beans. After retiring from her retirement business, just this spring, she took a leadership position at OLLI and is here today to tell us more about all things OLLI. Please welcome Deb Clay.
Remember what I did with the clicker here, and we'll hope it's working. Can everybody hear me? No. Okay. Okay, I have already been approached by several people today telling me that they've interacted with OLLI in various ways. So I want to ask you a few questions here to kind of see who I got in the audience. So do I have some people that have never heard of OLLI and know absolutely nothing about it? Okay, all right, good. I like that. Then I feel like my evangelizing will be worth it. That's good. And do I have some people that belong to OLLI and have been to some OLLI events? Okay, pretty good crew. Still people to be converted though, I like it. And a few people mentioned that either their business or their not-for-profit had somehow been part of an OLLI program. Maybe they taught an OLLI group, or they'd had an OLLI group come on a tour to their facility. Can I see the hands of those? Okay, wow, that's maybe the biggest group here, so great. Well, let me, for those of you that don't know what OLLI is, let me spend just a little bit of time explaining that. So Bradley has been in the business of continuing education, meaning not traditional going to college students, but people in the community that want to keep learning things. For 30 years in September. So that's quite a long history of this group. It started out as the Institute for Learning in Retirement. Not nearly as sexy a name as OLLI, I don't think, anyway. So we had to perk it up. But they were, they had committed to this cause, as have a lot of great universities around the country. When Bernard Osher came along and said, I want to support people who want to continue learning as they are maturing and are maybe beyond traditional school age. And that started with some colleges out in the state of California. And fortunately for all of us, they did a good job with the money that he gave them. So he created a foundation and started endowing other universities, and there are now 125 approximately OLLI chapters, and Bradley is one of them. Because we've been a very successful chapter, we have about 1,200 members now. We've actually been endowed twice. The first endowment $1 million, and then another $1 million because he liked what we did with the first $1 million. But we are part of continuing education at Bradley, so we get a lot of support from Bradley in terms of staff. We actually own some vehicles that we'll talk about a little bit later. And then really the heart of OLLI, it's run by volunteers like me, who think it's a great program and want to get involved and be sure that it continues on into the future and hopefully gets better. So the question, who can belong to OLLI? Gee, it's a pretty easy thing. If you're a curious person, you like to keep learning things throughout your life. We aim our programming for 50 plus people, age 50 and up. but we do not card. So if you're a little younger than 50, that's okay. We'll still take you in. It's no problem. I want to just kind of go through people. On the back table there are some course catalogs, to use college terminology, of what's coming up in OLLI for the fall. We haven't quite started our fall season because it's not September yet. So there are still opportunities to join in if you want to. And I'm just going to kind of review what's in that catalog and what are the kinds of things that we do at OLLI events, because it's a lot, and it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose for somebody that comes in. They're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I don't know where to start. So we're going to talk about these 5 different kinds of activities. But before I leave this slide, I just want to say that Ashley gave us the perfect setup here about how important the friendships and the social engagement that goes on at OLLI are to me and to everybody that belongs there. I've met so many interesting, smart, fun people that I didn't know before I joined, which has been great. So probably what we're most known for, and something that you'd find at any OLLI that you went to around the country, are classes. And they're all different. OLLIs do it in different ways. But for the most part, we have a session of classes in the spring and a session of classes in the fall. And that's during the month of April, during the month of October. And as it says there, typically they're an hour long. We do them on Wednesdays, so 4 Wednesdays in April, 4 Wednesdays in October. And generally those classes, they might have 25 people, maybe 30. Some of them might be bigger, even 80 people, something like that. The great thing about them is you have the learning and the fun and all the stuff that you remember about going to school, but there are no tests and there's no stress, which makes it fun. We do allow you, I mean, you don't have to, there are 4 classes each day, but you don't have to come to 4 classes. If you want to do 1, you want to do 2, you want to do 3, whatever you want. Some of those classes we offer as hybrids. So if you're, I know there are some people here that are Zooming in. If you like that medium, there's some opportunity for that. And in fact, having like a lot of people gone through COVID and gotten used to working on Zoom, we started thinking about, hey, in January and February, when some of our members aren't around here, or the ones that are maybe aren't that interested in going out in the ice and snow, maybe we'll just run Zoom programs. So this is something we tried last year, and it was very successful. It gives us a chance to bring in speakers that are not physically with us, but are located all over the country, and can have some interesting topics. Last year we had a great program. We called it 4 Doctors for Women. And we had, each week was a different physician that talked about, skincare, gynecology. We had a breast surgeon. It was just really a fascinating program, and because we could pull these experts in from around the country. So we're going to do that again this year for January, 3 sessions, and February, 4 sessions. And you kind of thinking to yourself, well, what do we have classes about? We try to organize our classes around these topics, which, as you can see, are a bunch. And I'm obviously love to have people join OLLI, but I'm also interested if you might want to teach a topic like this, if you know something about gardening, or you're really into literature, or you've successfully run a business and you might like to share your experience. We're always looking for, good instructors for these classes, and we would welcome you to join us. The nice thing about the classes you're dealing with, most of our classes are held at the Michael Student Center on the Bradley campus. And if you've tried to park on the Bradley campus during school, you know that that's kind of a losing proposition. So we have a really great staff of parking hosts that hang out at the Westminster Presbyterian Church and Shea Stadium. And then we run these little shuttle buses to get everybody where they're supposed to be to their classes and try to make it really simple. And that's, part of what we use the funds that we collect for this is to maintain those buses and some of the audio video equipment, some of those kinds of things. The second category, and I don't know if it's fair to say it's my favorite because I also really love trips, so I don't know, but I love study groups. And the reason that I like them, they tend to be longer in duration. They're usually a couple hours long instead of only one. And, some people like that, some people don't. I like it. And they're usually smaller and more discussion based. So if you really want to get to know some people a little bit better, it's a great way to do that. And also to take kind of a deep dive into a topic. There is kind of the downside is they're not quite as effortless as the classes because you might need to read a book or you might need to, I know I took a class in mixology, which I named day drinking. And I was asked to, pick a liquor and come in and give a little, 5-minute report on the history of this liquor. So the homework is not too onerous. I did take another class where I had to actually read a book, and we read it. We discussed a couple chapters every week for 6 weeks, but it was a great book, so I was very glad I read it. Typically, some of these are held on the Bradley campus, but usually they're out in the community. A lot of them are at Peoria Next, which is pretty easy to get in and out of. We've done some at Goodwill, various other locations around the community that can support a group of 20-ish kind of people. I'm about in another couple of weeks to start teaching a wine tasting and buying class that we've done a couple years in the past. It's been pretty fun. And learned a lot actually from the people in the class as well as what we're doing. And study groups, not to dwell on this, but it's the same kind of topics that we're looking at, trying to have something for everyone's interest. Another really great thing we do are learning trips, and we do a lot of local trips. I know some people we've just visited Epic. We're going to be going pretty soon to go behind the scenes at the Santa Parade. I've been to Rothen, Millworks, a lot of great places. And typically the local trips are half a day, and they always include lunch, either at the beginning or at the end. Again, trying to build in that social time and being able to have a little camaraderie with the people that you're riding around on the little minibus with. And we do a variety of things. We've been out to the cat demo area, which is near and dear to my heart. But you can see, they've been out petting alpacas, and we had somebody come up and tell me they just went on the kayaking trip where we try to get people out to learn to kayak. So a lot of really fun trips. And again, I love the fact that kind of one of our guidelines for the trips is that it has to be something that you can't just easily go do on your own or sign up with another group that's already doing something. So we're trying to kind of make it interesting. I just did a behind the scenes at Saffron Social, the new restaurant. And they took us down in the basement to their prep area, which was really interesting. We learned where their cakes come from and why. And they showed us their 1,000-degree vertical grill that they use to prepare their meats, and just all kinds of things that you're really not going to get anyplace else. Okay, then we also do some kind of longer day trip regionally, up to Chicago, the Quad Cities, St. Louis, not an overnight stay, but a long day of travel. And again, things that are not that easy to just go do on your own. And then I think it's super fun. I'm going to move over and point out that you can go zip lining with OLLI if you're up for that.
I like that.
Yeah. We went to Costa Rica a few years ago, and my husband's not the most comfortable guy with heights. I said, well, I'm going, you can come if you want. It was pretty fun. Anyway, we've had people, go all over the US and all over the country, the world really, on trips. Somebody else just told me they've signed up for the Danube next year in December. So I spent a little bit of time in Prague a few years ago, and what a beautiful, beautiful trip. It'd be a good one. Okay, and then, sometimes we get something that we just think would be a cool thing to do for OLLI members, but we don't have, a category. It doesn't fit in any of the categories we've talked about. So then we created this thing called OLLI Originals. And what is that? Well, it could be whatever, if you've got an idea for something that doesn't fit, this is a place that you could put it. So we do get a lot of, leaders in the community, locally and regionally, because some of them are also on Zoom. We try to pull in subject experts on topics that people are interested in. We had a fellow that's a retired Bradley professor, lives out in Arizona now, talking to us about some nuclear stuff out there. Very interesting. I heard somebody here has already been to 26 national parks, I think was the number. And we do a little bit of, pulling in people and actually doing a virtual tour of some of these national parks. Not as much fun as visiting in person, but, can kind of get you jazzed up if you're thinking about doing a trip. We've had people, okay, we're going to do a tour of an art museum in Venice via Zoom. And that takes an hour and a half. They pick out, kind of the high points. We also put together something during COVID that we're pretty proud of, which we called Support Local, because we're all shut in and we're not socializing very much, and we haven't been in a restaurant in who knows how long, so what's happening to them? So we reached out to a lot of local restaurants and said, hey, if you would prepare a meal, we'll show up and get people to subscribe, and they can drive by and we'll throw it in their car window while wearing a mask. And really tried to help the local businesses keep going during that very tough time. And we were recognized by Peoria area for doing that. And we actually received a national award from OLLI, from the Osher Institute. Very successful program. Something else we've just started, which, if you're thinking, well, I might like to learn more about OLLI, is we started having mix and mingles. So we just basically set a day and make arrangements with a local establishment to have happy hour and snacks and that kind of thing. Just very informal. Nobody speaks. It just show up and talk to other people about what they've done and what they enjoy doing. And then I want to share with you something else that we're just getting started with. We've done it a couple times last year, but when we do have our class programs, we're inviting some not-for-profit organizations in to set up a little table and be able to explain to OLLI members what they're doing. The reading folks that went a little bit earlier tonight be a great thing to have. Because I think people that are involved with OLLI, like people that are involved with Rotary, always looking for ways to help in the community. So if you're part of an organization and you feel like that might be a good thing for you to do, we'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for ideas there. We also invite local artists in to display some of the things that they've done during the break times in class. And usually they sell a few things as well, so it's good for their business. Okay, so I think I have come almost to the end of the official slides. But I do, want to say that we've got a pretty good online presence if you'd like to know more about OLLI and peruse at your own pace. Or again, if you're interested, there are a lot of course catalogs back there that you can explore. And if you have some ideas, please, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you can't remember my name or how to get a hold of me, you can always contact the OLLI office. And I've got I don't know if you can read those phone numbers, but I will leave them up there for a little while. So I want to open up for questions. Anybody got anything that they want to argue with or discuss in any length or, yes? Yeah, go right ahead.
So thank you so much for being here today. So we just got to know OLLI, and in one of the advertisements we saw a trip overseas. And we have a travel group and we've been to Tuscany and Bordeaux and other places. But you have a trip coming up next Christmas, and it's a Danube Christmas market trip. And we fly into Prague and start the boat cruise there. Just two things from that. You have a wonderful person in the office, Diana Klein, and she gets back to you right away with any question you have. I wanted to know the layout of the room that we're renting, and she got that right back to me. And the other thing is the accommodations you make for our age group. So for this trip, we will leave from Bradley. We will park our cars in a parking deck. One of your buses will pick up our large suitcases and put them on the next bus, and we go to Chicago and somebody takes them off and all that. So it seems to be very, very well organized, and we're looking forward to it.
Great. Glad to have you join us. One in the back there.
Thank you for being here. I think you definitely knew your audience, talking about day drinking and the wine class coming up. So I'm just curious as to what type of alcohol you chose to report on, and if there's anything interesting we should know about it.
It's a great question.
Well, it was gin, because that's one of my favorites, as it's where I put my raffle tickets today. But and what do I remember? I remember I enjoyed it. Does that count for anything?
We got something for you.
Oh! Well, I have to have some friends over to help with this. All right.
Just a quick question. Do you have any programs that are live music? I've attended some of those in the past, Bradley Jazz Band, what have you. I really like, are we doing some of those things this fall?
You're testing my memory now, which is not what it used to be, but we generally do have some sort of live thing. I think Stan Ransom, do you know who that is? He's an opera guy. And I think he's doing a program where he's playing his personal clips from some of his favorite operas. That's one I think is coming up in the fall. But yes, we have had the jazz band. We've had quite a number of organizations come in, and we do very much that fits. A lot of people that are interested in live music, so we'll keep them coming.